Good afternoon, everybody. We're going to get started in just a few minutes. We still have a few folks joining, so we're going to get started in about 2 minutes, everybody. Hi, Lori. Hi, Leslie. Hi, David. Hi, Kimmy. I see you guys on video. We have a few folks that are still joining us.
Hey, David and Kimmy, how are you both?
Hi, Wanda. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for inviting us. Thank you.
You're so welcome. All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. The joins have decreased. And so I just want to hold on 1 second, make sure that I'm sharing the right version of this project. Yes, okay. All right. Um, my name is Allison Owenby for anybody who I haven't met yet. I am the Director of Research and Evaluation at the Nonprofit Center of Northeast Florida, and I have the pleasure of owning all of our data and research initiatives for the organization. Um, and one of those major projects that I own and deliver for our community is our data work. So not only our Catalyst regional dashboard, but this beaches version that we're going to talk a little bit more about today. And so I'd love for everybody who's on the call, we have a small group today, probably about, I think we have about 8 people. If you could all just come off mute and share who you are and the organization you're representing. I'll kind of do a round robin call out just so we're not all stepping over each other. And so I'll start at the top with Kimmy if you'd like to go first.
Hey there. So I'm Kimmy Winston, and I'm a member of the Beaches Community Fund.
Awesome. And then David.
David Loeb, member of the Beaches Community Fund and Beam, and a long-standing supporter of Nonprofit Center.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And Leslie.
Hi, I'm Leslie Brotman and also a member of the Beaches Community Fund.
Awesome. And Wanda.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Wanda Willis. I'm with the Community Foundation for Northeast Florida, and I also serve as a liaison with the Community Foundation and the Beaches Community Fund. And I see lots of great folks on the call this morning.
Yes, we've got a good group of folks here. Okay, next I will say Alexandra.
Hi, everyone. Alexandra Reinhardt, Baptist Community Health and Wellbeing.
Alexandra, welcome. I love to see you here versus just our clay sessions that we have. Latonia?
Latanya Gore Weidman. I am here. I'm feeling under the weather, so that's why I'm not on camera. I apologize about that. But I'm representing Aspire Concierge Solutions and then also Mandarin Community Church. So glad to be here.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
We have someone named ADIRI001. I'm not sure
Sorry.
that. Nope,
Yeah,
no
that's Addie
worries.
Nobels. I work for Baptist Beaches for community relations.
Yep.
Um, I'll have them. That's my like user ID for Baptist. So let me see if I can change it.
Nope,
That's who I am. Thanks.
no worries. I recognize your voice now. Okay, how about, let's see, Jill's phone. I'm assuming that's Jill from the chamber. Maybe she's joining from her phone, so can't come off mute. Let's see. I have Wanda, we did, Leslie, Latoya, Kimmy, Jill, David, Alexandra, Lori. I forgot you, Lori. Sorry.
No, not at all. Lori Anderson with Beaches Council on Aging and our program Dial-A-Ride here at the beach, free transportation for seniors who can't drive.
Awesome. Thank you, Lori. Is there anybody that I missed? I think I got everyone, but sometimes you're jumping around. No? Okay. If someone else joins, we'll just ask them to introduce themselves to us as we continue to go through the conversation today. We have about an hour on our schedule. And so during the conversation, I'm going to share a little bit more about the Nonprofit Center and some of the work that we're doing around data. We're going to go through the Beaches Indicator dashboard and really just dig deeper into what the data is saying about our community. So if you were able to attend our session where we shared the dashboard in May, we talked a little bit about some of the data points on the dashboard, right? But this session is really we're going to go over one by one all the data points that are the economic vitality section of the dashboard. And then at the end of the conversation, there'll be some time for you guys to ask questions and share your feedback about what we have as we go into our new project year of refreshing the data and adding information based on the community's feedback. So I want you to keep that in mind as we're kind of chatting today. Any questions before we get started? No? All right. Well, this is an informal conversation, so please come off mute, ask questions as we're going through. All right. So for those of you who don't know, and I'm pretty sure all of you do, but I'm required to review this slide every session. The Nonprofit Center of Northeast Florida connects, strengthens, and advocates for our nonprofit community. We have over 300 members, and that number goes up to 450, and at the lowest is 300, depending on the day that we look at our numbers and statistics. Right, I'm the numbers and statistics person, so making sure that statement is accurate is really important to me. We do lots of different things for our nonprofit community as a capacity builder, including trainings and workshops. We have our job board. We have a new board bank where now we're not only posting nonprofit board opportunities, but we're also connecting with leaders in our community to put their profiles up and allowing nonprofit organizations to connect with leaders in the community that want to join boards. So if you navigate over to our website and click our board bank, that's a new enhancement that we released last year. We do consulting and coaching, so some of our consulting projects are really taking off this year and more recently, where we're partnering with organizations to do strategic planning as well as board governance and other type of really deep collaboration with smaller amounts of nonprofit organizations. And everybody knows about our monthly newsletter Nuggets, which is a really great summary for all of our members of the things that we have coming up in the community. What we're going to talk about today is some of our data work at the Nonprofit Center. And this slide kind of talks a little bit about where we've been and where we're going with our data work. So everybody in our community, those who have been here for a while, knows about JCCI and the wonderful amount of work that they did a long time ago to help the community understand what its needs and strengths were. They brought together different groups of organizations and individuals in the community to talk about that data and then build programs around it. They unfortunately closed their doors in 2016, and since then there's been a little bit of a gap, not a little bit, a big gap in our community when it comes to helping us understand what the needs in our community are and really bringing together all the research that's done, right? There's a lot of really individual projects that are happening to help us understand things in our community, but nobody that's bringing it all together. So in 2022, the Nonprofit Center was approached by a private funder to build our Northeast Florida Indicators project and try to fill that gap. Now, have we been able to fill JCCI's shoes up to this date? Probably not, right? They were a great organization that existed for many number of years, and but we're working on it. We're slowly getting there. And so up until this point, we've built data views for our community, like I mentioned before, our regional view of Northeast Florida, which compares our region to the United States as well as the state of Florida and counties then to each other, so we can understand how we fit into the larger scheme of data and research. We have built specific geographic views, the North Florida beaches being one of them. We've also worked with Clay County to develop their own data project, as well as we've prepared special views for city council members, like Councilmember Amero, um, G- Councilmember Peluso, and others. But today we're really here to talk about our North Florida Beaches project. And so I want to start off with one of the most controversial data points on our dashboard, which is really just a map of the beach, right? So some people want to know first, what does it mean to live at the beach? And our dashboard, we went through with BAC and really tried to, the Beaches Action Collaborative, to understand what they wanted to see on the dashboard when it related to the beach. And for them and us, we decided to leverage data that was south all the way to Ponte Vedra, north up to Mayport, and then a little bit west of the intercoastal, just so that we could better understand how some of the communities that live across the intercoastal are um, are impacted by the data that and folks that come to the beach quite often. So these are the zip codes that are included right here. Now, last year we worked with BAC to establish the dashboard and break the data into 6 different groups of information. The first being an overview of the beach, right? So that contains data around population, age of folks, household size and makeup. We focused in on housing and homelessness, economic vitality, which is the topic that we're here to speak about today, food insecurity, education, as well as physical health, mental health, and healthcare access. Now, every single day this week, we're having a different data session for the beaches community, and each day is going to be focused on a different topic. So today, again, is economic vitality, but the rest of the 5 days this week will have different rotating topics where we dive deep into the data. Okay, so that is all I have on for slides, and now I'm going to bring up the dashboard and I'll share my screen in just a moment. But before we go over to those slides, does anybody have any comments or questions so far?
I just wanted to know, how far up do you go to Mayport, or do you stop at Mayport?
We stop at Mayport.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll bring up some more maps so we can look at it together.
And
Oh, go ahead.
do you mind explaining? You said it was controversial. So including 32224. at the beaches? How did that play out?
When we were speaking with Back about the map and the footprint to include, there was some people that the majority of Beaches Action Collaborative that we worked with to establish this they're from lots of different walks of life, right? There are people who are part of the organization, and Lori, you can feel free to jump in here too. Lori is a very active member of Back that wanted to include Ponte Vedra, and there were others that didn't, right? There were some folks at, that were part of BAC that wanted to include folks that were across the intercoastal and some that didn't, right? They wanted to just it to be a true beaches view. But the real debate that happened while we were landing on a geographic region was around the want to include people who receive services from nonprofits that are located at the beach that don't necessarily live at the beach, right? And so that's why we decided to include some of the areas across the intercoastal to make sure that we can gain a better representative understanding of the folks that access services at the beach, if that makes sense.
So,
So
so,
I
so
have,
Beam,
oh, go ahead, David. Sorry.
let's just try to sort this out because Beam, obviously a big player at the beaches, and our charter really is we help people that live or work at the beach.
Hmm.
So that would include people that live at 32224, or it could include people that live even further in town. But the fact is, we require some beaches, um, footprint.
Sure.
There are people at 32224 that live and work at 32224, and that would be included in this. Because the resources are different, right?
Right.
Um,
Hmm.
so I'm just trying to. I think to me the most important part of all this is that we have clean data.
Yes.
Um,
The
and
data is clean based on the geographic footprint that we've defined.
okay,
Yeah. Okay, so before we
So,
go ahead.
oh, I'm
Sorry,
sorry.
Leslie.
I have two questions. One is, what
Sure.
is 32227? I don't know that zip code. Where is that?
Hold on
See, I
one sec.
thought that was Northern Mayport, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, you've got a map up there, but it's so small. I don't know if the zip codes are on that or not. I can't read it.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if we've discussed this or if you even have this. I apologize,
Sure.
but
No worries.
it would be great to see the zip codes on the maps.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that would be very helpful. The other thing is, and I can look that up. I can Google it. I just
Yeah,
thought
no
you might
worries.
know it off the top of your head. In gaining data, so if the Beaches Community Fund decides to define the beaches differently than how, not as expansive as you all have gathered the data, can we separate things out? If the Beaches Community Fund said we're not going to consider 25, 322, 25, 24, or whatever, and can you all provide us data and take that out of your compilation?
I think that would be a separate conversation. And absolutely, we can create a report with data on any geographic region that you guys would like, right? I can go
Okay,
down to a census tract level. I can go across the United States, right? So if there's a want or a need for that, absolutely. The product that we built was supported by Beaches Action Collaborative and the work that they're attempting to achieve through that and other members of the beaches community, right? So our product has been informed by the community. If, you guys would like something specific for you to use for your fund meetings,
mhm.
absolutely. We're happy to do that.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, and we'll go into zip codes in just a second. Let me go
Okay,
through these couple slides.
sure. Thank you.
Yeah, no worries. So to get to the beaches dashboard, you can go a couple of ways, right? So you can go from our nonprofit center website over here to our resources and go navigate to our Catalyst dashboard. Once you get there, there's a lot of different data on there. We have our regional dashboard listed and all of our data categories here. We have our Clay County dashboard as well as our North Florida beaches, right? So if you click North Florida beaches, it'll take you right there. Additionally, if you go to the Beaches Action Collaborative website, you can see some information about Beaches Action Collaborative, and there's a link to the North Florida Beaches Indicators project here. Right, so just there's a lot of different ways to navigate there, and I just want to make sure you all know how to get back here in case you lose the link for any reason. So this is our website here, our North Florida Beaches Indicators project. So we start off on the page, and let me see if I can zoom in a little bit. There we go. It talks a little bit about the data categories that you'll find, as well as recognizing our Beaches Community Fund and the Community Foundation for Northeast Florida for sponsoring the project and supporting the project, as well as the Beaches Action Collaborative for their partnership in building the data views that you see today. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is just give us a little context for the conversation by reviewing some of the data around the overview of the beach. Now, as you see, as we get into the data, you'll see that a lot of the information that we share on here is based on census, right? So sometimes we present this data to people at the city of Jacksonville Beach or JEA or things like that. And they say our population numbers don't match necessarily what this is, right? But this is based on census, and the new census data should be published later this week, I think January 29th. Well, it'll be published to the website. By the end of the following week, which I believe is February 6th, we should have updated data on all of our dashboards, right? So we'll have based on the 2024. So it'll be 2020 through 2024 data versus what we see here today, which is 2019 through 2023. Just want to let you guys know if you see something in this presentation today, go back in 2 weeks and look at it. The data will be updated. Okay, so when we think about our population at the beach, we have about 114,000 people that are within the footprint that's defined up here. We got a little bit more percent females as compared to males. And you'll see here how the population at the beach has grown over time, right? So we go back to 1990 when we had about 79,000 people. 2000, about 110. Then we dropped a little bit in 2010. And then the latest 2021 is 114,000. Then we have some projections here up to 2029, where the beaches community continues to grow up to 122,000 people. I want to go over age because as when we think about economic vitality, especially even in our last Beaches Action Collaborative meeting, where we talked a little bit about some of the data, people wanted to know what the retirement age of folks at the beach was, like how many folks are retired that live there, and how does their economic vitality impact the overall beaches region. So the age makeup of the beach is a little bit older, trending older than Duval County overall, right? So we have a median age of about 44, whereas Duval County has a median age of 30, almost 37, right? But when we think about the population ratio, the percentage of folks, 19% of the beach are children, population under age 18, and 21% are seniors. So we see a higher trend of people at the beach who are older, right? Who are retired. And even when compared to Duval County overall. So it's almost flipped, right? Duval County has 22% under age 18 and 14% 65 and older. Now, when we go down a little bit, this just talks about what's the trend line in population at the beach. So we look here and we see the 18 and over category is continuing to grow with a little bit of decline more recently. But when we look at children's data, so the cool thing about our mapping systems is you can add or remove filters, right? So this is the graph and what it looks like with both of our data points. If we really just want to look at children and how they have grown and changed over time, we can look specifically at that. So we see a spike in children in 2000 with fewer kind of over time. Now I
Pretty,
just added,
pretty fancy.
hmm?
Pretty fancy.
Oh, yeah, I know. Um, I also just added this right before this meeting. This view here, again, people wanted in our last back meeting wanted to know what the distribution of folks age 65 and older looks like at the beach. So I can show both of them. I can click this to turn off ages 16 to 64. So right now you're looking at the population at the beach age 65 and older. So you can see the darker color blue indicates a larger population versus lighter is less. So up here, we can zoom in a little bit and see we have East Mayport has 124 people over 65. And then some of the larger sections would be over here, which is what? There's Sawgrass, TPC. We've got about 1,200 people, 2,100 folks in that census tract. Now, a few of you had mentioned earlier you wanted to see a view by zip code, and we can absolutely add that. I'm going to make that note to add that. Sometimes we find that showing things by census tract gives us a better sense of where people are living in specific neighborhoods, right? But people better understand the geographic limitations of a zip code, right? I know my zip code. I know that that feels comfortable for me to better understand. Okay. Um, let's see what else we have. We have households and green space. I do want to just show a little bit about race and ethnicity at the beach. We did share some of these data points in our session last May, but I still think it's important to understand. So when we think about the beach, we see here that beach is about 22% people of color as compared to Duval County, which is about 51% of the population. So that includes all minority groups. And when we scroll down a little bit here, we think about race and ethnicity at the beach over time. And so this kind of gives population numbers for white individuals out at the beach, right? So you can see kind of the population for white individuals has held pretty steady at the beach with some increases over time. But when I remove white individuals from the conversation, we can see that the number of Hispanic folks at the beach has increased from about 2,000 to upwards of 10,000 more recently, whereas the number of Black residents at the beach was at about 5,900 up to 8,000, and then we're landing at a similar number than where we were in 1990, as well as Asian folks have just had a smaller increase, right? And so just understanding the racial and ethnic makeup of the beach is something that I think is also important. So I'm going to move on from some of
How
the
did
over.
you how did you eliminate the on the graph? Can we play with that too? Eliminate
Yeah,
the So how did you do that again?
yeah. All you have to do is down here. So if I'm looking at the graph, I can eliminate anything just by clicking on it.
Okay,
So I can just
gotcha.
So,
Okay, thanks.
yep. So now white is grayed out, and I just see the other groups,
Yep,
other
thanks.
race and ethnic groups. Yeah, absolutely. And you can do that in any of the interactive mapping features. Okay. So let's move over to economic vitality, what we're really here to talk about. And I'm going to try to go through this a little quickly just so we have some time to chat. Um, we broke up the economic vitality section of this data project into three kind of large groups. The first is income, poverty, and income inequality. The second is labor market, labor force, and employment. And the third is commute and transportation. So we're going to go through each of these. The dashboard is designed the way that it is to give the viewer a sense of the data that we're looking at without overwhelming them with too many graphs and images at the start. So When we think about our labor market and employment, we want to talk about our employment rate. So our employment rate of the beach is 76.3%. So that's actually a little bit higher than Duval County when we compare the two, which is interesting to me when you think about the number of people who are age 65 and older, right? We saw that percentage higher. This percentage is higher as well. Now, this is employment industry by home location. So this is people who live at the beach. Where do they work, right? And what kind of work are they doing? I think this is really, really interesting here that you'll see that the folks who live at the beach have jobs that are going to earn them higher income, which, makes sense. A lot of them are in education and healthcare, scientific and professional, finance and insurance, and arts, food, and entertainment is the fourth highest industry, which if you look at Jacksonville overall or Duval County overall, finance and insurance is one of the highest employers, only second to arts, food, and entertainment. So there's a lot of more specialized, again, higher income employment industrial groups at the beach than there are in other parts of our community. Any questions about that? All right, I'm going to keep going. When we think about our labor market index, that measures how engaged residents are in the local labor market. We have a local labor market index of 72.4 at the beach and about 80 for Duval County. And again, as we continue to compare back and forth, I think it's interesting to see how the numbers change. When we think about our labor market index here, we'll see based on the map different areas of the community that are more engaged with the labor market than others. Again, darker colors show more engagement, lower numbers less. So let me go back up here if I can.
I know that sounds silly, but what does that mean, be labor market engaged? Does that mean working?
Yes.
Okay.
How engaged residents are with the labor market. Yep.
But that means that they're employed.
Yep. Based on the level of employment, labor force participation, and educational attainment. So it's employment plus, essentially.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. No worries. And so here we can see it's interesting. This census block group, which is really small geographic footprint, is low. And I think that's where there's a retirement building, right? Isn't there a retirement
Where's that
apartment
located?
complex?
Which
That's
street is it?
Pablo Towers.
Yeah.
Pablo
Yeah.
Towers. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. If that's Third and almost Beach, yeah, it's Pablo Towers.
Beach and Third. Yep. So Pablo Towers is here. They have a very low employment engagement of 33, right? Which makes sense. But then let's see what's high. So we have over here, this is very high. This is like Nocatee almost. Um, we can look over here across the beach, 93. Let's see where this is. This is Neptune Beach over by Florida Boulevard, Atlantic Boulevard, 88, 95. So quite high when
Yeah,
we think of.
that's where all those shops and everything are. But
Hmm.
I don't know if they necessarily work there, but
Right. Okay, so we have our labor market, and let's talk about labor force. So, labor force participation is the number of residents over 16 who are either employed or unemployed or actively looking, right? So, labor market was more of a labor plus, right? Employment plus. This is just looking at labor. So, labor force participation at the beach is, again, does outpace not people who are not in the labor force, 61,000 versus 33. And then if we look at labor force, not in the labor force by age group, right? So this is people who are not working or not looking for work by age. You can see, obviously, we're going to trend older, people who are likely retired, but there are other folks that are also not engaged in the other age groups as well. And we have our annual employment statistics, so total employed versus unemployed at the beach. Now, this is a percentage of total population per capita. And then here we see unemployment again by our map view. And what's the unemployment per capita in the civilian labor force? So we see how some of those changes are occurring. So almost 0% in some areas, others have higher. 16% up here. So let's see where that is.
We-
Oak Harbor. So that's right near Naval Station. Seaside Charter School, Naval Station, Mayport. Oop, hold on. Okay, there we go.
Can you go back up a little bit from the a little bit more?
You want to
Go
see?
go back. Yeah, right. So right there. So,
Yep.
is there a way to look at this, in terms of not just raw numbers,
Mm-hmm.
but percentage? Because I think the raw numbers you kind of get skewed, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then in employment status, just down a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Got total employed 49%, not unemployed 1.5%. I would think you'd look at 100% somewhere, right? So
Mm-hmm.
where's everybody else that's not in that 51%?
That's a great question. So I
You
think
got to
our
be one or the other, right?
yeah. Well, I mean, I think the people who are not engaged aren't included,
So
right?
that's
So
half the people.
according to this data, yes. Okay, hold on. We do have somebody put something in the chat. Oh, need to jump off. That was Wanda.
I'm just trying to, I think this is incredible. I'm
Mm-hmm.
just trying to understand how to, because this is going to be interesting and fun to play with. I just want to make sure I'm interpreting things right.
No, I 100% agree with you. So let me add, and I think it would be helpful too. There's a lot of assumed definitions here, right?
Yeah,
As I'm looking through this through a set of eyes of someone who doesn't really understand necessarily what some of
that's
these
me.
things mean, right? Right? No, it's great. And I think that it would be helpful for me to add some additional context when I'm saying, so participation in labor force, what does that mean, right? So adding in some different write-ups here, and I think that I'll take that as a takeaway in order to make it more understandable, right, for people who are maybe looking at this for the first
That'd
time.
be
And even
great.
for me too, right? Like I made this, right? I put in all of these different data points and statistics, but there's probably 100 different data statistics on here. So I want to make sure that I understand as well. Okay.
Thanks.
No, absolutely. That's great feedback. So let me write that down. Add in definitions. Okay, and I also have a note about zip codes. All right, so let's talk a little bit about transportation. So we've got about 20 minutes left. Um, and so here we're going to look at transportation is really important, and it's something that the Beaches Action Collaborative has worked on at the beach for a very long time. And so including travel and transportation is something that they really wanted to make sure that we included in here. And also, it's just important when you look at the income that's available for folks in any community. Um, hold on one second. I'm going to refresh this page because part of it's not loading. Uh-oh. Okay. Um, this graph right here is talking a little bit about how long it takes you to commute to your job, right? So this is not necessarily a view of how you're getting to your job, but how long on average does it take you? And if you look at the beach, you'll see that travel times range from about 30 minutes to about 12 minutes, which is not too bad, right? When you think about our community overall, I know people like to joke that it takes about 30 minutes to get anywhere, right? And so it seems like the beaches community is the same. So we have, not surprising, up north in East Mayport, we've got some low travel times of 12.9 minutes, maybe 21, and then longer times when it comes to South Ponte Vedra, which, anybody who lives out there knows it takes about 15 minutes just to get from Butler all the way down there anyway. So to me, that makes a lot of sense. I think what's most interesting about this set of data for the community is understanding how residents at the beach are commuting to and from work. And this data kind of mirrors what we see across Duval County overall. So we see the majority of folks drive alone, right? We're a car community. We don't necessarily have reliable transportation through public transit systems. And our public transit systems that do exist are sometimes hard to get to and navigate. And so the majority of folks, uh, about 41,000, are driving alone. And a significant other number are working from home, right? So this number has grown and changed over time, but at the beach we have about 11,000 folks that don't even have to commute, right? They work from home. We have about 3,000 that are carpooling, 1,000 that walk. I would love to be part of that 1,000 personally, but um, that's pretty cool. And then we have some taxi cab, motor, bicycles, walk, and then only about 200 are reporting that they use public transportation to get to work.
So Allison, here again, it's labeled type by percent of residents who commute, and then you have raw numbers, but I don't see percentages. So, I mean,
Hmm.
right? So, because I'm trying to think this data is only important because we're going to make informed decisions on how to
Hmm.
use resources, right? I mean, that's
Hmm.
the goal of this. So, um, it just, I just think it's a little confusing, at least to me.
Yeah, sure. No, that's fair. And that's probably just a typo, commute type by percent of residents who commute. And looking at these are definitely hard numbers, but I'll take a look at that.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to be picky. I'm just trying to, because I'm already looking with, where do we intervene, right?
No, of course. And you calling that out is in no way offensive to me, right? I think the more people who take a look at this and give feedback about it to make sure that it makes sense not only for you, but for whoever in the community would like to use it is so incredibly important. And so I want you to give me the feedback that you have, right? Because the only way that I'm going to know how to make this better is for people to tell me how to make it better, right?
No,
Okay.
I don't mean to do that. I'm just trying to really, I think this is just really an incredible amount of work and the presentation's great. And I think it just because it's so good, it just brings up a lot of questions, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. That's the thing about data is like it kind of eliminates your assumptions, right? It really shows you what's going on. And then once you have the answer to one question, you ask yourself another and another and another and another. And then I love this just because of that, right? Okay, so this is
You're
digging
better
a
than
little.
my wife. She thinks I ask too many questions.
No, I love questions, honestly. Okay, so okay, this is a double click, right? So we're looking here at about 200 folks that use public transport. And so then where we want to know where do they live, right? So they're going to live up here and they're going to live right here, pretty much, right? And maybe some a little bit over here and over here. But the rest, not many folks are using public transport, at least according to the census that we can see. The majority of them are right here and over here. Okay. And then now we know, okay, everybody at the beach and everybody in Duval County pretty much uses vehicles to get around, but then we're going to show what percent of residents have access to vehicles in our community. Um, and so here again, this data kind of mirrors, right? So we have about 3% that say they don't have a vehicle, about 35% say they have one, 45% say they have two, and 15% say they have three or more. So now we want to double click on that 3% and show where households are that have no vehicle access. Now it's a little bit different from the ones who are using public transportation. So because this is a different question, but it's still using the same census data, right? So we see a little bit of a different distribution when we look at no vehicle access versus people who say they use public transportation. We can see that this area still has quite a high number, but there's more distribution in up here, which is near Hannah Park, as well as San Pablo areas over here. Okay. This concludes my TED Talk. That's all I've got for you guys today. So I want to stop there and give just some time for some reflection and for some thoughts about what we've shared and talked about today.
Lori, are you still there? I was just asking, do you know, so that dark blue area for public transportation, is that the beaches where they catch the beaches flyer?
I wouldn't know the answer to that question. That would have been definitely a Lori question.
Yeah, because see, this was one of the things that the Beaches Community Fund did very early on,
Mm-hmm.
was we realized lack of transportation adversely affected employment.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and public transportation, there are a lot of people that don't have cars, don't have jobs, so blah blah.
Mm-hmm.
And so we really struggled with how to impact that. One of the few things we were able to successfully lobby for was this beaches flyer and I just
Mm-hmm.
didn't know where it goes down beach. I just didn't know where it picked up, and I wonder if that was the spot.
Mm-hmm. I'm not sure, but I'm taking that as a note to follow up.
I wouldn't waste your time. I was just wondering if she was there. I'd try to understand it.
Mm-hmm. I don't think it's a waste of time. It's an interesting question.
Thanks.
Honestly. Jill, any thoughts? I know you helped create this last year. Now seeing it all the data in there. What do you
Oh,
think?
it looks good. My only thought, honestly, which is very nitpicky, I have a hard time differentiating between the different shades of blue. It would be
Mm,
more helpful to me if maybe they were um, use different color schemes. Because I think
agreed.
at a glance you can tell the story a little bit more easily than having to hover over it and read the number and things like that.
Hmm.
But no, it looks great. You've put a lot of work into this. It looks fabulous. Very good information.
So David, if we were to take this data what is the difference between this and the Beaches Community Fund footprint? Is it just that it doesn't include folks on the other side of the
Right,
intercoastal?
right.
Okay.
And the same's true for Beam. Um, Beam, though, we've accepted the fact that um, people are moving out of the beach as affordability decreases, but
Mm-hmm.
they continue to have jobs in. So as long as people have some relationship to the beach, either through living or working, then
Mm-hmm.
we consider them eligible for services. And then the other thing is, um, I think for us, 32224 includes, some rather large, high-paying employers,
Mm-hmm.
including one that's very close to my heart, the Mayo Clinic. Um, and I think that that's going to, that's a lot of people work there. So that's going to skew some of this data.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I know I've talked to Dawn with Jeff before, and she said it's not a problem to get a to eliminate certain area codes just so that we can
Mm-hmm.
have cleaner data.
Yes.
And the reason, this is great for the whole city, right? It's great for
Right.
everybody. This data is really important. But I'm just trying to make sure that we're making decisions for our people based on, without um, any disparities that would arise from people that aren't included in our capture area.
Got it. Okay. All right, let's do something. I'm going to show
Kimmy,
you
does that
guys.
sound right to you? You're on mute.
Were you talking to me? Uh,
Always.
okay.
I
That
mean,
I think the data is a little bit overwhelming with all the stuff. But I'm sure that it's something that we can use as we start. Because I thought we had that conversation about including a little bit
mhm.
over the intercoastal
Yeah, we
because
did.
we
I
felt
know. I
like,
mean, I don't know if it was you or I thought it was Jeff. Maybe it was you and I talking to Dawn at one of the nonprofit center meetings. It doesn't sound. It didn't sound difficult.
Yeah. Okay, I just wanted to show you guys a zip code view. So this would be a zip code view of back, and that we're talking here about median household income, right? Which I actually forgot to review. So we'll go back to that in a moment. So this is 32082, 32250, 32224, 66, 33, 25, 2227.
Hmm.
That was the question I think you guys had earlier, right? Which is what.
Yep. Yep.
And so as you can see, zip code views are are good, but they it really depends on which zip codes you're using, right? This is a good view because it's the geographic area is pretty small, right? But if I look at 32082, it's a huge zip code, right? Even over here, this is a pretty big zip code. Now, when I look back over here at the tr census tract level, so you can see just
Mm-hmm.
how more granular the data gets, right?
Hmm.
And so I can see here that this doesn't surprise me, higher median income than a few blocks away from the beach. Even down here, median income 231,000 versus 71,000. Whoa,
Hmm.
huge difference, right? And so, if there's a need for you all to see things at a zip code level, absolutely. We can add two different maps that show the data in different ways. It takes literally a second for me to change the views. It really just depends on how the consumer of the information, want to see it.
Yeah, um, I'll just say it again. I just think it's important. Like this informs where, we're going to focus money, right? So
Hmm.
I mean, Mayport, right? That's the low area. So it makes
Hmm.
sense. It just makes sense that that's where a lot of our resources are going to that area.
Hmm.
Yeah, just because it's low income does not necessarily mean that that's where the organizations are. I mean,
Right, but that's where the
okay.
people might be, right? I mean,
Uh-huh.
Hmm.
But we need to, I mean, we're giving to the organizations, not to the
oh no, no, no.
people.
I mean, but this is all just there are lots of data points.
Yeah.
It's just one.
Yeah. Yes.
Right. Right.
Will not argue with that.
Okay.
Is there
So,
anything surprising, David, on on these data points? Is there anything that surprises you about?
It's a little hard. I mean, I just am looking at it now, really in this
Mhm.
detail for the first time. It's hard to say. I'm interested in taking the 2224 out and seeing, but the only thing that I think is you know surprising is how good this is. Uh, the
David, you offend me. You wound me.
I I did what?
You wound me. You didn't think it was good? Come on. Come
No, I
on.
said I think it is so good.
Okay,
Yes.
okay, okay.
That's what I said. I'm surprised by how I thought it was going to be good, but I didn't think it was going to be like this. This is
Wow.
really remarkable.
I did forget to go over really quickly some of our income data. And so I know it's hard to see because we're zoomed in. Let me switch over to the my other browser. Boo, boo, boo. I'm gonna go here and we're gonna talk about income. So this is something I forgot to do. I skipped right over it. We want to recognize that the median income at the beach is 110,000, which is significantly higher than the median income of Duval County overall, which is about 68,000. And then we just viewed that, right? So this is the income distribution of the beaches as defined by our geographic footprint, which ranges from 200,000 down to about 50,000. So now say I wanted to just look at the lower income census tracts, we can filter that out as well by just clicking on the numbers over here to remove them. Also, I want to make sure you guys are aware all of this data is downloadable. So I can download it into a CSV if I want to do additional analysis or export it as an image, right? So if, say you wanted to include it in a presentation the Beaches Community Fund was going to do, or one that the Winston Family Foundation was going to do. You can download all of this stuff from here. One of the things we also included was poverty and ALICE rates. So we have different data points here around Duval County, St. John's, and the beach. These are hard numbers for poverty, right? So we have 143,000 for Duval, but that skews us. So let's just remove them and we'll just look at Beach and St. John's so we can see how that kind of changes over time. Now, Dave, this is to your point earlier, right? I started adding in as I was going through ratio as a percent of the population. So here you can see kind of a hard number and how it changes over time. So at the beach, you see 9,000 people were considered below poverty, now 7,000. But it may change when you look at it as a ratio, as a percentage of the population. So Duval County was 17% to 14, whereas beach was 9%, now down to 6.5.
I talked last week or the week before with Melanie Patz,
Mm-hmm.
and she had some really interesting data about that. And she looked at Alice data
Mm-hmm.
by age group.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess Duval County is having, um, the high Alice population in the younger
Yes.
and then again in the older. Is that true out here as well?
I didn't do analysis by age, but that's something that we can definitely add. We added mostly around Alice, just the hard numbers of population, as well as in each zip code views of kind of the percentage of population. So in 32266, there's, 75% basically above, 22% that are Alice, and then smaller number of poverty households. So, but I can add that in. It's not a big deal. And then over here is income inequality. So if you're not familiar with the Gini index, it's essentially a number between 0 and 1. The higher the number in your geographic region, the more income inequality there is, and the lower number, the lower amount of income inequality. This is something that deserves more than the 1 second I have left, but it is an interesting data point when you look at how income inequality varies across the beach. So that is all the time we have today. But I do want to encourage you all to check out the beaches dashboard some more. Um, Send me whatever feedback you have so that I can continue to edit and change it. This spring is going to be our time to kind of focus on the beaches dashboard, edit and change it based on our community feedback, and continue to evolve it. And again, we have sessions all this week and next week to gather that feedback. We have another set of sessions coming up later in the spring. If you have time, I would love for you to let me know what you thought of today's session. You can scan this QR code and fill out our little survey. I'll also send it kind of in a wrap-up email to you all after. All right. Thank you all so much for
Thanks,
joining
Allison. It was
us.
wonderful.
Thank
Oh,
you. You did a
Thank
great
you.
job.
thank you so
Yeah.
much, everybody.
Will
Have a
you be
great,
doing, will you be doing the other presentations this week?
I will, every one of them. So if
Okay.
you're joining, I'm going to be there too. Don't worry.
I
That's
have a
great. Thank
conflict
you.
tomorrow, but plan to be in all the other ones.
Okay, awesome. Well,
Thanks
Thank
a
you.
lot.
I'll see you soon. Thank you all.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.